Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sivadas Madhavan, Associate Professor of English, Linguistics University, Ethiopia. Today I'm going to talk about the 5th chapter of the research paper, that is conclusion. I told you last time when I was talking about the first chapter will be 10% of the research paper. Similarly, the last chapter, that is the conclusion, will also be 10% of the research paper. 10% means approximately 20 pages. If your research paper has 200 pages, conclusion will also be 20 pages. Introduction will also be approximately 20 pages, not more than that. So that is the approximate size of the chapters. And there is no hard and fast rule, but these are the common practices people do. And if introduction is the head of the research paper, conclusion is the tail of the research paper. The head and tail must be matching with each other. That means you cannot have the head of the elephant and tail of the horse. It will not synchronize. So, make it appropriate. Beauty is propriety, as Horace says. So, a research paper must have a proper head and proper tail. Then only it will be appropriate. So, conclusion is the findings, the suggestions, recommendations, and conclusion. So, briefly, they explain the key findings, the recommendations, the suggestions, etc. in the concluding chapter. And it is the textual generalization, but no new data will come there. When you make a textual generalization, it must be based on the data that you have analyzed. So it depends on the analysis of data. And I told you the other day that when you write, you don't write the first chapter first, you will write the first chapter after the 4th chapter, because there are so many things that will help you from the analysis of data to write the first chapter. And after writing the first chapter, you will write the 5th chapter, that is the conclusion. Why? It is to make proper connection between the first chapter and the last chapter. Because in the last chapter, in conclusion, you have to mention the research questions or the research problems and the objectives of the study, the research methods, research design, etc. It must be matching. Otherwise, it will not be acceptable. So, the head and tail must be matching. Introduction and conclusion must be matching. So, most of the time, the conclusion will be the inferences. Inferences means eliciting the ideas based on the analysis that you have made, and it will be the deductions. You are deducing, you are getting the information, and abstractions, implications, interpretation, or generalization based on the findings. So all these activities are based on the findings. Your interpretation is based on the findings, inferences will be based on the findings, deductions will be based on the findings, abstractions will be based on the findings. That means you cannot go out. You are completely controlled or regulated by the discussion that you have made in the 4th chapter. That is, the 5th chapter is completely based on what you have done in the 4th chapter. That means all the other chapters, a research paper will have interlinked chapters. So that cannot be denied. You can go out. And in conclusion, what people do is summarizing the key findings, summarize the key findings, and answer the research questions. Research questions means the knowledge gap, to fill the knowledge gap or the research gap. So that will be there. And there will be the outline of the contributions. Outline of the contributions means what you have learned from the research, or what you have what you have found out after the research. That is the findings, the contribution. The contribution is what you have already learned by doing the research. That will be there. And then discuss the limitations. Your limitations will be most of the time due to wrong samples or wrong answers of the participants, or even the bias of the participants, or maybe the answers to your questions were not correctly done by the participants, etc. So it depends on the choosing of the samples. It can be like that, or it can be sometimes due to time limitations, or it may be due to lack of other conveniences. So based on these limitations, you will be able to make the recommendations and suggestions for further research. So further research means research based on your research, or the other researchers can start from where you stopped. It's possible on the same topic or on the related topics. So on the related topics or some topics in the same field, other researchers will get a guideline from your research. So that will be the concluding part of the research. Your recommendations will be the conclusion of your research. And in the concluding part, you will not have any bias, and you will not make incorrect generalization or comparison, and you will be doing it in the realistic way, and you will be avoiding all the unnecessary imaginations or your biased feelings, etc. And then the conclusion will be an appropriate conclusion to the research. And that's all I have to tell you about the conclusion. I will come up with some other topic later. Thank you.